Let's kick it off, Bill.
Looking forward to it. It's great to talk about the two-man game. It's been one of the more recent innovations in the sport, lacrosse. But interestingly, I don't think we've taken full advantage of what you can get out of a two-man game. From the way we approach it, how we teach it, the emphasis we place on it in our offensive sets, and quite frankly, how deep we choose to really integrate it within, how we play the game, leaves plenty of room for improvement and enhancement. So I think it's great. We're going to cover a few of those features and aspects today.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think, Bill, I think you talk about two-man game, right? We talk about two-man game. We look at pick and roll, and most coaches would say, like, hey, pick and roll, that's simple. We get that, understand that. I think that's what you're referring to. So I'm excited to jump in with you here, talk through some just some basic diagrams and see how we can move from, players reading and reacting to what's going on to, as you'll say, anticipate and act. So
yeah,
let's pull it up.
Yeah, a two-man game, it really is a high IQ concept. It's not a low IQ concept. It's not just putting two guys together and saying, here's a ball, now go and figure out what to do. The two players have got to be connected. They got to be connected in kind of how they're trained, how they understand the game to be played, and then how they communicate with each other.
Talk about that, Bill. Talk about setting up this two-man, this pass and pick option.
Yeah, I like to see teams that pass into the two-man game as opposed to carrying straight to or running straight to the pick. When you pass into it, I think you create a higher degree of unpredictability. It also gives you this notion of a give and go. Give and go is one of the best plays in sport, whether it's basketball or lacrosse, and you just don't see it a lot anymore. And I think we give that up by not passing into the two-man game. When you put that on the front end, you'd be surprised how many times, especially early in the game, that simple pass down and then a hard cut on the backside of a defender. Oftentimes that defender will leave you open or be looking to pass you off, and you're wide open and as you cut to the cage. So I would always encourage teams pass into the two-man game as opposed to carrying into it.
That's awesome. All right, moving on. So passing in, setting into this cut too. You're going to see the word finesse on here a couple of times, and I want to talk about that, Bill. Just the nuance of setting a good two-man game setup here with the pick and roll option, which is what we're going to show here. Pass, pick down, and roll. So talk about the picker responsibilities, the carry responsibilities, and then that finesse that we've kind of highlighted there.
Yeah, well, when you're passing down as you're giving and going, you now have an opportunity to read the defense. This is so important. You're not just running down and thinking, okay, I have to set a pick. You're actually seeing how the defense is setting up. You're trying to get a read as to what they're going to do, how they're going to anticipate what you're going to do. Finessing allows the guy with the ball to see that as well, to read it and to wait for that pick to come down to him as he's getting ready to make a decision about how he's going to play that two-man.
Gotcha. So in this case here, we've got an attack. It's receiving the ball from the midfield up top. This pass down, this pick and roll that we're setting up. It's a pick down. So the attack here, trying to get over the pick, is going to finesse or drift dodge low to get over and carry high, right?
Exactly. And now it's all about the timing. So as that picker is coming down, the finesse guy is getting ready to make his move. We're looking for timing. It's important that you sprint to the pick, right? Too often we see guys pass the ball, or they're dodging, or they're just kind of jogging over to the two-man. Sprint to the pick, get there, hit that pick. Don't be afraid to set up. Don't be afraid for the body contact. The body contact is important. And I think too many coaches probably discipline their players for getting called for moving picks. So there's a psychological avoidance, if you will, on setting that pick and making contact. If you set it properly, don't be afraid to hit it. I tell my players, I'd rather see you set a great pick and get called for moving than not get in there and pick the guy off.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of times, I think the picks are soft, and I think teaching that footwork, right? Teaching that footwork on a pick, inside to out, setting the feet, obviously shoulders apart, not leaning into. That's a nuance in itself.
Yeah, and I think once you set that hard pick, now I think you set yourself up to open up to the ball carrier, the player coming off the pick with the ball, to open up to him and then roll hard to the cage. This is, I think, the most essential ingredient of the two-man game, and you very rarely see it. You very rarely see that roll to the pipe. You'll see them pop. In other words, step back off the pick and look for a pass to come back to them. But the real secret weapon is the roll. And what the roll does is, if you're into a very intensive two-man game offensive set, the roll sets you up for future two-man games where you might begin to explore other options like slips, like repicks, like follow picks. So you have to have the roll in there. And by the way, when you roll to the cage, oftentimes you are open, especially when you read the defense properly. They get confused and you're rolling to the cage. You have a look here now. Why don't we look?
Yeah, I just say, Bill, I think that's a good look, a good point on that. But I think they build, right? You're talking about the good picks build into them. And so the ability for that picker, and I'm going to slow this back down, this video clip here from Notre Dame, Virginia, but the ability for that picker to build on a solid pick, because then the next step is, a roll from that. And if we don't have a good pick, then we're not getting a good roll. They don't have to think it's a threat. That pick is not a threat if it's not set properly. So
that's correct.
Let me get back here, Bill, just to this clip, and I want to just walk through this. We just got a couple here to show, not a ton of video on this, but want to show just some picks, little different angles here. This is Notre Dame, Virginia, just coming up, and we'll kind of go frame by frame and watch this pick. Bill, kind of commentate through what you're seeing here.
Sure. So here he is. He said he's waiting for that pick to come over. He's looking. He's making his move. Now you can see it's coming off a dodge here, right? So here he steps. He's already set his pick. I think he could have stepped up a little bit more, but here he is. He's kind of coming up behind the defender. The ball carrier is reading it. He's going to carry over the top, and you'll see here the defender. He picks him up out of the corner of his eye. He's going to slide underneath him. The ball, there's no contact made, so there's nothing there. He just slides through. Carrier gets a little bit of separation, and he gets a shot off. This, to me, is what the classic two-man game has become in lacrosse. That's what they call a two-man game. But there's very little capitalizing on all the other features of a two-man game there.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, obviously, but even the point too that, hey, he probably should got a little higher upfield. Hey, he didn't do anything off that. He just kind of got skinny instead of staying big there and rolling. And still, shooter Kavanaugh gets his hands free and is able to bury a shot. And that's how effective it can be, even if it's not perfectly run.
That's correct.
All right, this is another clip from the same game, just a different setup. This is actually, Bill, this is a pass down or a pass over and pick away kind of setup. So, or pick on ball. So just kind of roll through this a little bit, and I'll pause this at the pick point, and just take a look at this one here as well. All right, so he's got ball. We're driving in.
He's gonna throw it down out to the
wing, and follows with this pick.
And here he's gonna carry right into a pick, which is okay. He's passing. There's a read there, very little finesse. He's gonna step up. Doesn't make a lot of contact because the defender slides over the top. Now watch.
Yeah, I would say, I just looking at this, I would say, that's that wing player, that's his responsibility to use that pick more effectively, right? His finesse on this isn't great. He allows this full, 4 or 5 foot gap where this defender can go over the pick there, which defender shouldn't be going over the pick there necessarily either, though. So
I would say that's laziness in the two-man game because they're just not really disciplined enough. Notice how the picker is just sort of opening up, and now he's standing there, and you might call that a pop. The coach might call that a pop, but notice how he just opens up and stands there. Why not go hard back door on that? right? And now, of course, he's got his defender. That's okay. It might not be open that time, but when you run it consistently by setting a good hard pick, holding it, then going hard to the cage on the roll, sometimes you'll catch them open and not just a flip pass to the backdoor cut.
Yeah, just drawing this a little bit. If he's rolling here, he drags this defender away a little bit, and there's more space as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, Bill, I didn't want to get too too far into this, but just obviously we want to just talk about the basics and the points here that I think we brought up is being brief with this, but understanding the two-man game and how effective it can be. And we'll try to do a few of these with some picks and slips and some different other options within the two-man. So
yep, and I would encourage coaches to not be afraid to put more time into the two-man game in practice. There's a lot of elements to it. I typically count anywhere from 25 to 30 elements in a two-man game. If you really want to be good at it, you have to practice it. It's like a pilot. When a pilot's not flying, he's in the simulator. So when you're not playing a game, you should be practicing your two-man game if you want to get really good at it. And I think teams that do take advantage of it not only will find themselves with a lot of opportunities on the doorstep, but they open themselves up for the three-man game, which is also called the Spain look. When you start adding the three-man game to your offensive set, you add tremendous capability and a lot of scoring potential.
Teasing future episodes there, Bill. I love it. So, well, yeah, appreciate you checking this out. If you're watching this, Bill, thanks for talking through this. We're going to have a few more of these shows, obviously, just talking through some nuances of the two-man and then into the three-man. And as always, if you need anything, you're watching this, just check us out. Just Play Sports Solutions. We'd love to talk to you about your team and how we can help you. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Matt. Enjoyed it.